And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the prosecution is not going to get that man today. No, because I'm going to get him.
This is the HAGMANN Report for today, Tuesday, October 16th, 2012. I'm Doug. Wearing the cans, the headsets, but everything else is looking good. So I want to thank each and every one of you for your support, your patience, your everything you've really your support in providing us the ability to get where we're at. Joe, welcome to tonight's program.
Glad to be here. We got a lot of work going, and with the video, as you were talking about, rebuilding the studio, and like you said, the last thing we got to do is put in these new mics.
Yes, indeed.
And we'll be all set, ready to go. I'm really excited about it. Lots of work, but it's coming to an end.
A ton of work.
And also, we have some developments from yesterday's show. We had on yesterday's show Mr. Wade Hicks, Jr. It was kind of a story that fell into our lap.
Compliments of Braveheart Radio. John from Braveheart Radio. I got to tell you what a very good patriot that man is, and of course that show airs every Saturday from 6 to 9 Eastern Time on. Well, if you go to HomelandSecurityUS.com, you can click the link there. So I want to thank John very much for his connecting up with that. But interviewed Mr. Hicks last night. Joe isolated the interview. And it's accessible via HomelandSecurityUS.com if you want to click on the website there. And of course, you can you can read the article. I would, if you could, spread it around Facebook. And of course, the audio the specific audio for that interview is isolated. It's 38 minutes long, and it's an interesting bit of audio.
It's up on YouTube under the title DHS detains passenger.
You can't miss it. It's a link right there.
38-minute on Team K9, channel Team K9.
Right.
Bookmark that channel. And
we spent a long time today just verifying certain things with respect to Mr. Hicks. I got to tell you, and I was on Alex Jones today, or I think I might be on right now. I'm not sure. It was a taped situation.
Yeah. On
Prison Planet or InfoWars. Part went to the radio, part went to the television, or both. I'm not sure which, but at any rate, that we took care of that today. So that was that was fun. It's scary.
Yeah, that Mr. Hicks Jr. I don't know if we got an update. Is he still in Hawaii?
As far as I know, he's still in Hawaii, and as far as I can tell, and folks, I'll tell you this: we did extensive background investigations on him. The only thing we found that he could be guilty of is promoting the United States Constitution on YouTube. There's a video, about 2.5-minute video, that you can find on YouTube, where he was speaking at, I believe it was a Tea Party rally. He was wearing a T-shirt that had Tyranny Response Team, which, again, we're in America. We still have freedom of speech. We still have freedom of expression. Within, of course, limits, within legal limits. And the last time I checked, That was not an issue. So now, again, folks, we've been following this. I mean, for the last 24 hours, with the exception of a couple of hours that we might have napped. The situation is this: this man is guilty of nothing. Now, of course, it's always possible where he could have sent, some weird letter or something, or made a phone call. But look, we had this. We looked over this guy. I don't believe that to be the case. I think this is a situation of political revenge.
Yeah, we see it all the time. The TSA singles people out who they do not like for reasons of opposition. Or being affiliated with certain groups or causes. All sorts of
exactly,
unprofessional. Just garbage, really. And it's the coming police state. This is here to stay. It's expanding. We talked about the TSA expanding to Amtrak last week, and that's not all. They've expanded to bus stations, train stations, soon to be highways. They are setting up an interface, or they have set up an interface to gather data through their fusion centers on all roads and highways. And a lot of people have sent me pictures saying they're putting these towers up in our area. They're doing it here. And we talked about that. They will continue to do that. This is 1984 gone wild, and it's not going to get any better, unfortunately.
Exactly.
We got some news we're going to cover today, and we have a guest coming on.
Yes, and this might be our guest at the top. I'm not certain. Let's just take a chance.
All right.
Orly Tates is, we're expecting Orly Tates to call in. Now, folks, I'm not sure if you know who Orly Tates is. She's an attorney. She's one of the most ridiculed people in the country, I believe. Orly, is this you?
I'm not sure if you know who Orly Tates is. She's an attorney.
Okay, we're going to have to let it cycle through. I don't believe that is. Anyway, Dr. Orly Tates had filed a legal challenge to a ballot challenge in Indianapolis, or in Indiana. And I have to tell you, folks, that it's still alive. The whole ballot issue is still alive. And she was going to give us a report today on the upcoming hearing. There's a hearing on Monday, October 20. It'd be the 22nd in Indianapolis, Indiana. And that's Orly right there. Okay, we've got. Go ahead and bring her on. Orly Tates is a fearless woman. Again, she's probably one of the most mocked individuals in the country. Yet she is one of the few people that has continued with her efforts to compel Obama to show proof that he is eligible to be on the state's ballots across the country. A very, very important ballot challenge trial, actually, is coming up on Monday in Indianapolis, Indiana. Folks, Orly needs, this country needs 100% support behind her, behind this hearing, so it's not buried, not killed, not snuffed out like the rest of these hearings and trials have been. And we are fortunate enough to have Orly Tates with us to give us an update and tell us what this is all about. Orly, are you there?
Yes, I am. Well, in Indiana, we have a pretty good case. We have 6 plaintiffs. 5 of them are registered voters of the state of Indiana. And what's good is that in the state of Indiana, what's important that in their statutes, they have a provision that somebody's name, the person's name on the ballot has to be the same as his name on his birth certificate, unless it's a woman who got married and legally changed her name, or if somebody, for any reason, legally changed his name. Otherwise, it has to be the same name as on his birth certificate. So Indiana is probably the only state in the union where a birth certificate is an issue. What is also important that one of the plaintiffs in this case is a Democrat who actually ran for Congress this year. He ran for Congress before, and he actually won the primary previously. So this person, so it's not just a Republican lawsuit, it's Republicans and Independents and Democrats are the plaintiffs. And we are seeking removal of Obama's name off the ballot in light of the fact, in light of evidence that we have presented to court showing that the last name that he's using, Obama, is not his legal last name, in light of the fact that he is using a fraudulently obtained Connecticut Social Security number that was never assigned to him, according to E-Verify and SSNBS, and in light of the fact that his identification papers, his birth certificate and his selective service certificate are forgeries. So for those reasons, we have trial, and the judge felt that it's warranted. It's warranted to conduct actually a trial. It's going to be on the 22nd at 10 a.m. And I do hope that people who are listening that have an opportunity to be there do come and show support to this case. As you know, we had to go through just unbelievable hardships in order to reach to this point. It's been 4 years of work, and we do have trial now. Excuse me 1 second. I'm going to just put it tomorrow. I have to put my number. Is it okay?
Yeah. Orly.
Yes. I'll take some else. Yes. Hello. Yes.
Hey, Orly. I don't know if it's our headphones, but you sound like you're far away.
Yeah. I know that she's talking.
Better?
Go ahead. Yeah.
That's a very important trial. We have several witnesses. We have witnesses who will be testifying to the fact that the Social Security number that he posted with his tax returns, and he forgot to flatten the PDF file so we could see the full Social Security number, is a number that was never assigned to him. We have a person sitting in the White House who is using a number that was never assigned to him. We have witnesses testifying that in his mother's passport records, his last name is Toy Barker, not Obama, and there is no evidence here that he ever legally changed his name. We have witnesses, experts testifying to the fact that what he posted online as his lawful birth certificate is nothing but a forgery. So those are very important issues. What is really disheartening is the fact that Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who talked about this issue quite a lot, and he did a number of press conferences. I personally delivered all my information to him, and so did many other people. Hundreds of people provided him with information, and he confirmed the findings. He did a number of press conferences. He raised a reported $7 million, huge amount of money, and now he ended up doing absolutely nothing with this. There was a lawsuit filed against Arpaio by Obama's regime, by Obama's Justice Department, and it's just their usual technique. They file some kind of bogus lawsuit to scare people, and they filed a lawsuit saying that there are some violations of civil rights. And recently, this lawsuit by the feds was dismissed, was withdrawn. The federal government just withdrew the lawsuit. However, right after that, Arpaio finished talking about the issue. He just stopped talking about the issue of Obama's forged IDs. And so he raised all this money. He promised people he's going to prosecute this, and then he did nothing. He never submitted this to the district attorney. He never submitted this to FBI, to the attorney general, and he's refusing to testify at trial. And as a matter of fact, now I'm rushing to FedEx to send papers to court in Arizona seeking with a motion to compel. I got a subpoena for him to appear at trial. He and Zulu are not responding, so now I have to waste my time and money filing a lawsuit against Arpaio. Basically, it's a lawsuit to compel his appearance at trial. His investigator, Mike Zulu, to come for a judge in Phoenix, Arizona, Indiana to extend my subpoena and issue an order compelling him to travel to Indiana on Monday and testify at trial. And all I'm asking him is not to reveal something that is secret, but just confirm the affidavit that he released previously. And this is just really disheartening. People that we thought that, above board, that we can rely on, look what they're doing.
Well, yeah, I understand that. I understand that Sheriff Joe Arpaio is not responding. I mean, Orly, why wouldn't Sheriff Joe, willingly respond?
Because the only reasonable explanation that he made a deal with the feds, whereby they withdrew their lawsuit against him. They filed a lawsuit claiming that he is violating civil rights of Hispanics, that there were multiple cases of rape in Hispanic neighborhoods, and he did not investigate those cases. He did not prosecute those cases as a sheriff. He did not do proper investigation. They said that there was one case where a Hispanic woman who was supposed to be deported was in labor, and they were claiming that he handcuffed her to bed or ordered her handcuffed to bed when she was in labor. So they were saying that he is violating civil rights, and they were threatening him a lengthy prison term. So the only explanation that I can think of is that he just made a deal with the feds. And it's funny. He said, well, I'm going to appear in some citizen grand juries. But the thing is, it's not actual real grand jury. It's like a citizen grand jury. It's something that people it's like mock grand juries, not
right.
Real grand juries. And it's nothing. It's a joke. We tried to go this route, and judges just throw those straight in the garbage. Nobody even looks at it. No DA, no U.S. attorney, no nothing. So he said, well, I'll talk at the citizen grand jury, please. This is nothing. Here we have a real case. We have plaintiffs. We have attorney general who filed the papers. We have a judge who already issued an order for trial, expedited trial due to proximity of elections. Witnesses are coming. We have an opportunity to remove him from the ballot, and when there is a real thing, he's just disappearing. Arpaio disappeared. Not only he disappeared, but he did something even worse. I had somebody who was a very good witness in Georgia. If you recall, we had one case in the administrative court in Georgia. His name is John Sampson. He's a former deportation officer in the Department of Homeland Security. And he testified at trial that, as an expert, as somebody who's been in immigration and deportation, if it would have been anybody else's paper, he would have been seeking a warrant for his arrest and deportation. That's how bad Obama's papers are. And I wanted him to appear here yet again. And what Arpaio did, he invited John Sampson to travel to Arizona. And Sampson came to Arizona. Arpaio and Corsi paid for John Sampson to travel to Arizona, and somebody from this volunteer sheriff's posse called me, and this woman told me that Arpaio and Jerome Corsi were persuading John Sampson not to testify in my trials. Even though, he's been my witness before, he testified in trial for me before. And John Sampson is also running for office. He's running for state senate. And Arpaio endorsed him. So it looks like here's another deal that was made. Not only Arpaio is not showing up after he raised $7 million and made all this noise, he's not showing up and not submitting anything to any authority, but he is also interfering with other witnesses and telling he and Jerome Corsi are there persuading this witness not to come to trial. And as a matter of fact, I got an email from this witness yesterday saying that because he is involved with this volunteer Parsi of Sheriff Arpaio in Phoenix, Arizona, he will not appear at trial in Indiana. This is just unbelievable what is going on.
Okay, Orly, without respect to, I mean, aside from Sheriff Joe Arpaio and that situation, what is the crux of your complaint in Indianapolis on Monday? What's going to happen on Monday? What can people expect when they go to the courthouse on Monday?
They will see 7 witnesses. As I just stated before I told you what happened with Arpaio, we'll have 7 witnesses who will be testifying. 2 witnesses will be testifying to the fact that they received Obama's mother's passport records.
Okay.
And in those passport records, as a child, as you know, years ago, children did not have their own passports. They were added to their parents' passports. So in his mother's passport records, he is listed under the last name Sawyer Barker.
Right,
so,
okay.
Obama is not his legal name. You cannot be on the ballot under a name that's not legally yours. So I will have witnesses testifying to that effect. I will have witnesses testifying to the fact that they checked Obama's records, and specifically, Obama posted his tax returns online. And originally, he did not flatten the PDF file. What it means is that if anybody opens the file, in that case it was Obama's tax return, he can see all of the changes that were made to this file. If you open it with Adobe Illustrator program, you see all the changes. So they could see the full Social Security number, and this number was run through E-Verify and SSNVS, and it shows that the number that Obama is using on his tax returns was never issued to Barack Obama. It's a Connecticut number that was issued to somebody else born in 1890 and who was a resident of Connecticut, and it's definitely not Obama.
Or Attorney Tates, do you think, I mean, what are the chances, and we've seen this happen before, and it almost seems like an exercise in futility. That's not to say, because I mean, I'm 100% behind you, and I think that what you're doing is extraordinary. But what do you think the chances are of actually prevailing here in this case?
I have to tell you that we have a much better chance than ever before. The state of Indiana is special not only because they have this provision in regards to the birth certificate, but also in the state of Indiana, they treat elections fraud with utmost seriousness. And this year, in February of this year, they threw out of office their duly elected Secretary of State. And
wow.
He was criminally prosecuted, and he was convicted on several charges, criminal charges. And he did something relatively minor. What he did, he got divorced, and he moved, but he had an arrangement with his wife that he was still getting his mail at his old house, and he was, and the wife even testified at trial. I talked to him personally. He said, my wife testified at trial and said that we have an arrangement. My ex-husband can come and visit his son, and he can stay at the basement. Apparently they have a basement apartment, and he can stay there while he's visiting his son. There is no problem. He can get his mail. And because he moved and did not update his voter registration card, he was thrown out of office and convicted. So, you know, if the Secretary of State was convicted for something minor, I would expect the judge to go pretty hard on Obama for something as major as using a stolen Social Security number or forged IDs. Also, what's interesting, that originally I got a different judge in this case. The judge that was assigned was Judge Shahid, David Shahid, and as you know, his son-in-law is Andre Carson, who is a liberal Democrat, one of the most liberal Democrats, devout Muslim. And this is the judge that I got first in this case, and that was a second Muslim judge that I was getting. And luckily for me, one of the plaintiffs in this case, the Democrat, Bob Kern, ran for Congress this year. And as he ran for Congress, he ran against Andre Carson. Oh. So I had an opportunity, an excuse to ask Judge Shahid to recuse himself because of conflict of interest. And I filed a motion, and he granted it, and he recused himself. And as a matter of fact, Attorney General office really fought to reverse it. They wanted Shahid on the case, but since he recused himself, a new judge was assigned. And it's like the luck of the draw. And this new judge is a conservative judge who is known as somebody, you know, I was told that this judge, who happens to be a woman, has more balls than many men.
Now, this is Judge Reed. You're going to be, okay.
And she's an older lady. She's in her 60s. You know, she's not somebody who is afraid that her, you know, her promising legal career is going to be cut short. You know, she's in her 60s. And, you know, she's somebody who might do the right thing. She, you know, I was seeking for a judge. I was looking for a judge like this who is independent and who is not afraid to do the right thing. And let's hope she will. But so far, you know, this case has been going on since March, and believe me, the Attorney General office really attacked me, and they wanted this case dismissed, and they pushed them pretty hard, but it's still going on since March, and here we have trial on Monday.
But you know, Orly, just to your credit, and ladies and gentlemen, to this woman's credit, after 4 years of intense struggle, and Orly has put her money, her job, her reputation on the line. And I know people are listening to this and saying, you know, give it up already. Come on, give it up already. But that's not the spirit in which America was built, and that's not the spirit in which we need to take America back. You, Orly, have finally broken through, because this is the first time. And I think people really have to understand this. This is the first time that we are going to see a trial on the merits of the case in Superior Court in any state. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Okay, for that alone, you should be congratulated. Okay, that's number one. Now, but number two, what time is the trial going to start?
It's going to be 10 a.m.
Okay.
And you know what? I have so many cases around the country. I have like 11 cases going on, and I don't remember if Indiana is a Central Time or if it's Central. Okay.
So that's 10 a.m. Central Time.
I sure it's Central, because I could swear. You know what? I could swear they're on Eastern Time. Because, you know, even though Indiana is kind of, when you look at the map, it's on this, it's in the center of the country, but I'm pretty sure they use Eastern Standard Time.
Okay.
So people can just double check, but I'm pretty sure it's Eastern Standard Time. So just keep that in mind, that it's kind of odd. It looks in the center of the country, but I'm pretty sure they are on Eastern Standard Time. So it's 10 a.m. It's going to be Superior Court, 200 East Washington Street in Indianapolis, and Superior Court, Division 14, Judge Reed.
Okay.
So I hope that people come. And another thing, I do have a lot of expenses. This is the fourth or fifth time that I'm traveling to Indiana alone. I had hearings in this case several times. I had to appear before the commission. I had to testify before the commission and then in court. And I have a case in Mississippi. I will have another hearing in Mississippi, Kansas, Texas, Supreme Court. Also the panel, multi-district litigation panel. So it's today, right? And now, actually, as I'm talking, yes, I can. As I'm talking to you, actually, I just entered FedEx and.
Okay.
Yes.
But Orly.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you're saying. Look, you've got a ton of expenses with this on your website, which is orlytatesesq.com, which we are going to link to. You've got a place where you can offset the your expenses there. PayPal.
Yes, there's PayPal, there's my address, so people can either mail or they can use PayPal. And, people don't realize that this is thousands and thousands of dollars. Just mail, each and everything I'm usually sending FedEx because in this case things tend to disappear, so I'm trying to make sure I'm using FedEx, and it's expensive between printing and mailing. And I had to hire somebody paralegal who would help me because of multiple cases. It's enormous expenses. If people can donate, that would help a lot.
Okay. I feel like I know you personally, Orly. I really do.
Well, I hope you show up in court and witness it. Maybe we'll make a difference there. I hope so.
I'll tell you what. We are. I'm looking at my schedule next week. But I'll tell you this, Orly. We're going to be in contact with some people in Indianapolis to promote this because you need support, you need backers, you need people there. We have to hold these people accountable.
Absolutely,
Orly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What do you expect from this trial? Do you think that they will hear the arguments and witnesses and render a verdict?
Yes, absolutely. As a matter of fact, we already had pre-trial conference with two attorneys from the Office of the Attorney General and the judge, and she did state that she would allow us to put witnesses. And I specifically told her, I said, Your Honor, it cost me about $1,000 per witness, like $700 airfare and hotel and so forth, and I'm bringing 7 witnesses, so I just want to make sure that I will be given an opportunity to present the case. And she said, yes, the witnesses definitely will be testifying. The only thing, until now, she did not allow media. She allowed media in the courtroom, of course, but she did not allow video cameras for some reason. I don't know why, but maybe she will allow it on Monday. But until now, she did not allow cameras. But, of course, she does allow media. And I had an Associated Press reporter last time, and right after the last hearing, I had a phone call. I think it's called Crosstalk, and it's on Christian radio, and they have 92 Christian radio stations waiting to see what's happening. So we're very, very hopeful that Indiana finally will be the state where this thing will start unraveling. And also, I'm asking people to call Arpaio, because that would really kind of put the last happen. Imagine if a law enforcement officer with 50 years experience in the position of a sheriff appears and testifies, this is something that would help a lot. I'm asking people and members of the media to call Arpaio's office and email and write, and or if you're in Arizona, visit Maricopa County Sheriff's Department and try to talk to him and reason with him and let him know that this is so crucial for him to appear in court on Monday and testify.
You know what, Orly? I'm gonna contact Mike Zullo tomorrow, and I'll see what I can come up with, and we'll be in touch. I know you're in transit. I know you're busy. And is there anything else before we cut you loose in terms of because I'm also going to promote this via social networking. But is there anything else we can do for you aside from contacting media? Perhaps help offset your expenses and such. Is there anything else?
Here's another good piece of news. As you know, I have multiple cases. And I do have a case in California where Barack Obama is already in default. Previously, he always used the U.S. Attorney's Office, but I did get a call from 2 U.S. attorneys in California who stated that in this case they will not be representing Barack Obama, that he will have to hire his attorney. As a matter of fact, they already filed an answer on behalf of other federal defendants because I'm suing in that case Nancy Pelosi. I'm suing Michael Archer administration. I'm suing William Chatfield, who used to be the director of Selective Service, and there are some very serious charges. And one of the causes of action racketeering. But I'm saying that what was done by those high-ranking officials in the federal government and the government of Hawaii is nothing short of criminal racketeering. And RICO is probably the only possibility for regular individuals, regular citizens to actually bring those serious charges. Otherwise, you have to be, a U.S. attorney to do that. So they stated that they will be representing and defending others, but not Obama. So that's very important. They filed their answer on behalf of others, but not on behalf of Obama. So I have already filed a notice of default, and we're waiting to see what the judge is going to do on that. So that's something that's important. Let me give you some more information that probably would be of interest to you, and particularly ones who are in the state of California. I have, that I ran for office here in California, and I requested from the Secretary of State a DVD with the full voter roll. And I gave this DVD to a couple of experts. One of them actually used to be an analyst for NATO. And they analyzed the DVD and all of their database. And what we found is staggering. We found that there are nearly at least 1.5 million invalid voter registrations in California out of 17 million. Which is a huge number. I don't think anybody has ever found such large numbers of invalid voter registrations. And unfortunately, the media just wouldn't report it. But here in California, we have a statute. I believe it's I don't recall. I think it's 2540. It's an election statute that states that when a person is registering to vote, there are about 8 categories that he has to fill out. For example, did you register somewhere else in another state? Your correct birth date and name and address have to be provided is the state of birth. In what state were you born? And this was designed by the California legislature in order to expose and track any election fraud. You can imagine if somebody says, "My name is Joe Smith." There are so many Joe Smiths, so when you ask for the state of birth, it's easier to track and to find people who might not be eligible. And the registrar cannot even register somebody to vote unless he fills out all the information. Well, I found 700,000 registrations where the state of birth is blank. I found another 750,000 voter registrations with clear falsifications. We got an email from the office of the Los Angeles County Registrar, Dean Logan, who actually came from Washington State, and there were multiple complaints against him in King County, Washington State, complaints of all kinds of elections irregularities. So now he is the registrar in Los Angeles County, and one of his employees sent us an email stating that in situations where people did not fill out properly their voter registration cards and did not provide the state of birth, instead of sending this back to the voter, asking him to fill out the information and send it back, they got a directive from the registrar to falsify the records and just put there U.S. or USA. This is obstruction of justice. This is fraud. This is forgery. This is falsification of official records. And this is done in the office of the registrar. That's how bad it is. We also got something similar. We found multiple voter registrations of individuals who appear to be 200 years old and are still voting in each and every election. We have really good health care. We got an email from an employee of another registrar who stated that when voters did not fill their birth date, and that's important. How do you know the person is 18 years old and registered to vote unless he fills out his age and birth date? They said that instead of sending those incomplete voter registrations back to the prospective voters, the registrar directed them to just put 1900, or they had like a computer program where they would automatically write 1900. So this is falsification of records yet again, and God knows how many of those. So,
but you said in California, 1.5 million alone in California?
Yes, 1.5 million invalid voter registrations on only one question. There is something I'm hearing echo.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, it's invalid based on lack of state of birth, or where they falsified or they put U.S. or USA where it was missing. But when you look at other parameters, for example, prior voter registrations, we did not check that yet, but God knows how many of those are incorrect. Also, the voters are supposed to provide their driver's licenses and social security numbers, and we don't know how many did not provide those. And in some rare instances, for example, if a person does not have a social security number, and this should be extremely rare for a person not to have a social security number, particularly in our day and age, they would have to assign a special number for the purpose of voting. But I suspect that in the state of California, we have hundreds of thousands of people who either didn't put their social security number or put a bogus number.
Wow.
So, I mean, we have massive fraud here in California, and the problem is you have nobody to talk to. There is such massive corruption everywhere in the state of California, and that election, and that, you go to court. I went, since the last 4 years, I've been fighting in court, and the judges just bury everything, sweep everything under the rug. I had situations where high-ranking judges were just lying in court to cover it up. Now I'm getting reports from a lot of individuals who are following elections. For example, when the ballots are being collected, it's supposed to be two people are supposed to collect ballots, so that there wouldn't be a situation of some kind of boxes being replaced. I was told that instead of two individuals picking up those boxes with ballots, they routinely use just one person. Just one person can go to his house to replace. It's unbelievable.
Orly, it's incredible. Everything you just described. I mean, we are a banana republic at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can't find anybody who has integrity and decency in the government to do a thing about it. Look how many corrupt judges we're seeing, how many corrupt U.S. attorneys, attorney generals. I hope... I really sincerely hope that this time in Indiana will make a difference, that this judge will do the right thing. I was told by attorneys who know her, who appeared before her, and who said that, she's our best case scenario because she is a strong person, integrity, who is not afraid to make a decision that might be controversial, but that is done according to law. So I'm really hopeful because if this is not done, if Judge Reed does not follow the testimony, does not do the right thing, I'm afraid that we will see so much corruption that it will lead to revolts. People will be just revolting.
Yeah, I can feel that too, and we're sensing that as well, Orly. I mean, we're getting reports in from all sorts of different reports, which we're going to be talking about later tonight. But Orly, let me ask you a question here. A couple of real quick questions before I know your time is so valuable. And ladies and gentlemen, this lady is calling in from a cell phone as she is traveling. So, I mean, look, talk about multitasking. But, Orly, let me ask you a question. If everything if this doesn't work, if this does not work, if the judge corrupt or whatever, if it doesn't work, where do you see this election going? I know you don't have a crystal ball, but do you think Obama would be reelected?
I hope not. My feeling is that Romney is ahead and further ahead of what the media is reporting. Now the latest Gallup report shows Romney 4% ahead. I think it's more like 10% ahead. However, the magnitude of election fraud is so big that anything is possible. I have to tell you, I traveled to the state of Nevada 2 years ago when Sharon Engel ran for office, and according to all of the polls, according to all of the surveys, she was 4-5% ahead, and they just flipped the vote. And in the morning, all the predictions, all the polls showed her 4-5% ahead, and in the evening they said, yep, the spread was 5%, but in favor of Harry Reid. So that's really worrisome. And that is why my work is so important. I hope that Romney wins. Clearly, he is a much better choice than Obama. But anything can happen. And even if Romney wins, we are seeing such massive corruption, as I said, in law enforcement, in judiciary, that even if Romney wins, it's not enough. We still need to make a difference. Look at the people sitting in Congress today, sitting in Senate today. Look at how they trashed our economy. Look how they've been on the take for years, sitting there for 10, 20, 30 years, getting money from special interests and destroying the country. I went to Washington, D.C. right before this free trade agreement with South Korea was signed, and I saw the Capitol flooded with those Korean businessmen. What were they doing? They basically were buying influence, and not enough. We've sent millions of American jobs to China, so now we'll be sending more American jobs to Korea and other countries. Obama was ready to sign this APEC, which is Asia-Pacific Economic Summit agreement, whereby more American jobs would go to de facto slave labor. To throw Obama out of office, we need to throw all the scoundrels out of office, bring new people, limit the number of terms that one can sit in Congress, in Senate, because power corrupt. They sit there for 3, 4, 5, 10 terms, and they become completely detached from reality, utterly corrupted. Elections are corrupted. So that's extremely important to continue fighting until we clean it up. And we have to change the election cycle because we have to clean all the corruption in elections, because without doing that, regardless of who wins the presidential race, we will have the same people sitting in Congress and Senate. And look what's happening to the country. Look at 23 million Americans who lost their jobs or working part-time for minimal wages. I have 3 sons who are studying in university. One is in a PhD program. And I have to tell you, I'm really concerned about their future. Today, according to statistics, 50% of college graduates cannot find jobs. In reality, it's even more than 50%. One of my sons went to an Ivy League university. There's a number of graduates that got their jobs was 50%. But if you talk about second, third, fourth-year universities, it's much lower. So this is pretty bad, and we have a lot of work ahead of us, regardless of who wins this election.
Oh, we do. No, Orly, we do. And you're on the front lines. I just admire your tenacity and your persistence. You're on the front lines. It's amazing we have not heard word one in the media. I guess it's not really amazing.
I mean, it's not just banana republic. We're a dictatorship. We are not any different than the Soviet Union. People need to understand that our media is heavily censored, including Fox. There is just unprecedented level of censorship. I was told that there is CIA that's censoring the media, that CIA and FBI representatives, but also, of course, keep in mind who owns media, people who put all of those scoundrels in office, people who drew billions of dollars in benefits. So they don't want to change. They've already invested in scoundrels. Why would they want clean people coming to office? So it is a concern. And we also need to clean up media. And as a matter of fact, one of my cases here in California and also in Indiana, I additional defendants, members of the media, because I'm stating that members of the media are criminally complicit in this racketeering scheme. This is a racket, and corrupt members of the media are complicit. Networks are complicit. And we can't find anybody who would even report on this in the mainstream media, because they are under the same marching orders to just be silent and bury this.
Okay,
just
well.
Like
You come from a communist country. Does this feel and smell like the media is just is communist at this point? I mean, covering for.
Yes, absolutely. It's a regime, and one thing that is good, even though I did not succeed yet in taking Obama out of office, but I did succeed in exposing so much in the last years. What I've also succeeded in doing is exposing to citizens of this country the magnitude of corruption, the enormous level of corruption, the magnitude of censorship of the media. Today, more and more people are realizing that our mainstream media is nothing but, well-trained Pavlovian dogs who just got some orders, and that's what they're doing. If they want to get their piece of meat, they'll have to jump, and they have to jump to the hoops like Pavlovian dogs. And it's not just media, it's judges, it's U.S. attorneys, it's attorney generals of the states, it's governors, it's the high-ranking officials. More and more people are disgusted in what they're seeing. Just here's one other example. And by the way, I'm driving through a bad area, so we might get disconnected. It's not me, I'm not rude, it's just bad area. But I have a case that's now going to the Supreme Court. where I presented a request on the Freedom of Information Act seeking seeking the application, that application to the Social Security. And the judges in the district court and the Court of Appeals denied this, even though I provided them with information showing that he's using the number that was never sent to him. I provided them E-Verify, SSNDS. I provided them affidavit of a senior deportation officer saying that normally in this situation you would release the application. So they denied it. What was their excuse? They said that it's his private matter, that Obama has the expectation of privacy, and there is no public interest. They're saying that somebody who's using a stolen Social Security number has an expectation of privacy to keep it private. And that nobody cares, that there is no public interest in knowing whether we have a legitimate president or whether we have a criminal with a stolen Social Security number sitting in the White House. That's how corrupt our judges are. And those are high-ranking judges of the U.S. Court of Appeals in the District of Columbia. I just now submitted this to the Supreme Court, and here is more dirt and corruption. They changed the records, and they said that I'm out of time. The Court of Appeals case was dismissed in May, so I just recently sent a letter to the chief clerk, because the letter came from chief clerk, and I said, no, this is manipulation of docket. Look at the docket. The mandate from the Court of Appeals came from August. I have 90 days till end of November. I demand that you change the record and provide me with a letter stating that I'm not out of time, that I can issue until November 28th and submit this to the Supreme Court. So I'm waiting for William Sutter, who is the chief clerk of the Supreme Court, to respond. And people who are listening to the show are welcome to contact the Supreme Court of the United States and the Court of Appeals in the District of Columbia and check with clerks what is going on there, why the date was changed. This just unbelievable cover-up. Criminality you're dealing with here all over the federal government. The Chicago Mafia took over the federal government.
It's an incredible situation. That I you know, at this point we are a captured nation. We're a captured operation, and that's the way it is. But Orly, we're going to cut you loose here. I know you're busy. We're going to make sure that everyone knows about Monday, 10 o'clock. And you're right, by the way, Eastern Time, because of the daylight change in daylight savings time. Eastern Time, Indianapolis, 10 o'clock.
No, it has nothing to do with daylight savings time. It is daylight savings time. It still goes according to the same. You know, if you're in the Pacific zone, doesn't matter daylight savings time.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, whatever. We've got to get people there. And indeed, we're going to make this public, promote the heck out of this and try to get you some support there. Anyone who's in Indianapolis, I know Pastor Paul Begley is in Indianapolis. We're going to ask him if he could talk about this a little bit, because we really need this. We need to capture our country back from this foreign oppression.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, guys.
Bless you. And you take care, travel safely, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, thanks.
Good.
Have a good day. Bye.
Good night. Folks, that was Orly Tates, Attorney Orly Tates. What a great patriotic American. And, you know, I know. I know that she had, she's filing some things to compel Sheriff Joe Arpaio to get involved in to testify. I know that there's some issues, but it's times like these, ladies and gentlemen, we have to leave egos at the door. We've got to leave our territorial issues at the door. We've got to, we're fighting an enemy that's so big and so much bigger than we are, and so rooted in evil that really we have to, personalities don't matter. Personal agendas don't matter. I mean, this is how I see it. And I know, Joe, that you and I speak, and we talk about issues like this, and we feel the same way. We're all on the same side. We're all in this together. And when I was on Alex Jones Day, we were talking, off air, and I said, man, they think that's for sending the story in about Wade Hicks. Well, no, you know what? It's not about territory. We wanted to get the word out there. Here's a guy that's look, it could be any one of us in Mr. Hicks's shoes. Because don't we speak out? Don't we talk about the amendments, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution? Of course we do. And folks, each and every one of you, in your own sphere of influence, in your own families, you are the leaders, and you will be targeted. I can trust me on this. You will be targeted, whether it's just trust me. I can tell you right now, you're going to be targeted, and it's not going to be fun because your reputation is going to be assailed. Your character is going to be called into question. Your faith is going to be challenged. But people, it's amazing to me. People ask me, well, why talk about spirituality? Why talk about biblical issues? Well, in times like these, you've got to have the armor of God and the spiritual aspect of things on your side. You've got to be a part of this. You've got to be one with God. And your heart's got to be pure, too. Because if your heart is not pure...
Right. That is, very important. Doing things out of a sense of, what's it called?
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. And
obligation.
Right. Here's the thing, folks. And I just want to mention this for people on the video. We're going to be back up here shortly. We just had to make a couple of alterations to a couple of things. But again, whether or not you like Orly Tates, whether or not you like Sheriff Joe Arpaio, whether or not you like whoever, Joe Smith down the road, if they're speaking the truth, it's not a matter of liking them. It's not a matter of it's a matter of the truth. It's a matter of getting God's law, man. And also the law of this nation, the laws of this nation, and this is all. I mean, this is a big part of it. So in Orly, when I talked to Ms. Tates this morning, and don't forget, this is the one where wasn't that Lawrence O'Donnell that had that fit with her?
Yes,
screaming at her.
Yeah. Okay, very unprofessional.
Right. And see, we are all going to experience this on one level or another. I can promise you that if you put your neck out there. Trust me on this from experience, especially over the last few weeks. You put your neck out there. You stick your neck out. Someone's going to take a swipe at it, and that's only when your head. And by the way, it's only when you lift your head above the crowd is when you make yourself a target, or when somebody takes a swipe at it. You cannot, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot crawl underneath a carpet or underneath a rug or underneath a rock. You've got to stand up for what's right. Everyone at this point, everyone's going to stand up for what's right. And I have a
because if you're not standing up for what's right, speaking out against the evil, you are helping that evil increase.
Right. And this brings me to one other issue, which is of relevance, too, because the presidential debates are on tonight. And don't forget that. And like I always, you can watch them live, or you can actually watch them, you could, they're going to be analyzed to death for the next 24 or 48 hours. And the high points are always, put somewhere. But here's the thing. I was going somewhere with this, and it just completely flew out of my head. People say, well, Romney, I'm not going to vote for Romney because, well, they're two issues of the same coin. Well, you know what? That's true. Now, do you not vote? Well, okay. That's an option. By not voting, you are actually exercising a level of civil disobedience. But, what does that do? Well, that certainly... Now, if everyone did that, it would be much more effective if everyone did that. Just like at an airport, I use this example all the time. One person says, no, you're not going to touch me, you're not going to do this to me, then chances are that person is going to be in jail. Half a dozen people, hey, they might bring the media, and they might get off with a warning. But if everyone stood up and said, no, you're not going to do this to me, what are they going to do? They're going to back down. We saw this in 2009 or 2010, I believe it was, around Thanksgiving. Or, yeah, exactly, 2010, where they backed down. And this is what we've got to do. We've got to show this unified force. And I can't think of a better group of people than the Christian population, because we are a resilient and a very tenacious bunch of people, the Christians. People, the true believers in the true one living God. We are a great bunch of people. And when we get together, we're very formidable. So this is why, too, people say, well, why did you do such a, long spiritual thing with Steve Quayle? Well, look, the information is out there. The nuts and bolts of what's going on is out there. Folks, you can grab that. But when we have the opportunity with Steve on, and when the Holy Spirit tells him to go in a certain direction, we'll go there. I mean, that's how we do things. Now, so you can not vote, or you can vote for Romney. Well, what would that do? Well, if Romney does win, is he going to change anything? Probably not. Is it going to matter very much? Probably not. Are we still going to be funding abortions? I'm sure of it. But it may buy us, another month? And if it buys us a day and 10 people are saved in that period of time, isn't that worth it? I mean, I don't know.
The only positive thing I can see coming from a Mitt Romney win would be the possibility of more people becoming aware of the control of the two-party system.
Right.
People see things don't change once Romney gets in. Then people might, turn to the alternative media.
I agree.
That is the only benefit I see with the Romney win.
But then you've got what if Obama wins? Well,
I don't see any benefit.
No, I don't either. I do see things ramping up rather quickly if that's the case. But anyway, we've got a lot of news information, a lot more news information, analysis, a lot of headlines. I've got some information. I talked to Steve off air today. We're going to be getting in much, much more. Stay with us. We're going to break for about 2.5 minutes and then come back. Your phone calls, 661-244-9839 as well. That's 661-244-9839. Hi folks, Doug Hagmann here. You might know me as the co-host from the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, or as a frequent guest on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. If you're like me, you're tired and confused over today's headlines, you just don't know where to turn for accurate, concise information about really what's going on, what's truly going on in today's society. If you don't know where to turn for accurate, well-researched, and properly vetted news, I've got a suggestion. In fact, it's a requirement. Bookmark Canada Free Press. That's CanadaFreePress.com on the Internet. It's just not for Canada. It's for news across the world. Judy McLeod, founding editor, has put together a vast array of talented writers like Kelly O'Connell, Daniel Greenfield, Dr. Eileen Johnson-Powell, a lot of guest columnists, very talented writers. Folks, that's Canada Free Press at CanadaFreePress.com. Now mobile friendly. Follow on Facebook, because without America, there is no free world.
You're stumped, you don't know what kind of gift to give to a friend or a loved one, I'm telling you, you must go to 4physics.com. That's the numeral 4, PHYSICS.com. This is your one-stop shopping palace. That's the only way I can put it. I could spend easily an hour on this website. Innovative, fun, educational. There are games, books, weather instruments, unique time-telling devices, jewelry, optical devices, laboratory equipment. Let me give you an example. We all know we can tell time. with a sundial. You've seen those advertised. Did you know that you could tell time by the stars? At 4physics.com. You can buy a horologium nocturnum. This was a navigational device used in the 15th century by navigators at night to tell time by the stars. It's beautifully crafted in the shape of a pendant made of bronze and pewter or gold and silver. Absolutely a stunning gift. I would be proud to give it to anyone. You must go to 4physics.com. Even if you're not stumped, that's 4physics. That's the numeral 4, PHYSICS.com. It's your one-stop shopping palace. Any problems that you have, I don't know what to get Grandpa, I don't know what to get my loved one, that's unique, you will find it at 4physics.com. Please take my word for it. Go to the website, but give yourself a lot of time because you're not going to want to leave. 4physics.com.
You better wake up fast and listen to this, America. The Obamacare campaign has launched a tax squad disguised as truth teams dedicated to intimidating and silencing all political dissent carried over the Internet that criticizes the Marxist Obama. Truth Squad specifically focused on covering up Obama's endless trail of lies, corruption, and subversion, and using the Gestapo power of our own government to police and censor the Internet and shut down websites that dare to carry the real truth about Obama's Marxist coup. Remember the names of these Gestapo-style agencies at work right there in your neighborhood. KeepingHisWord.com, KeepingGOPHonest.com, and AttackWatch.com. KGB, SS, and Gestapo-style police-state gangster organizations at work to silence the important voices of patriot dissent, some of which have already been shut down by Obama's orders. Adolf Hitler would have been proud. We're the 21st century Tea Party patriots.
Hold on to your seat. The HAGMANN and HAGMANN flight is now taking off. Doug and Joe HAGMANN have cleared the runway of TSA agents, jihadists, political crackpots, and global elitists. Now get ready for some real news. Here they are, Doug and Joe HAGMANN.
The idea that if you buy a CD or a book, it's now your property to use, throw away, or resell, right?
Well, maybe not. This fall, the U.S. Supreme Court is considering a case that could change that, meaning you could not resell products that you buy without permission first. Ben has the reality check you won't see anywhere else.
Well, this is a case that is almost hard to believe. The U.S. Supreme Court is taking it up, and it could change the way you buy and sell things forever. Here's the backstory. In 1997, a Thailand native named Supap Kurtsang came to America to study at Cornell University. He realized his textbooks were substantially cheaper to buy in Thailand than they were in New York. Kurtsang got his Thai relatives to buy the books and then ship them to him in the United States. Well, one of the publishers, John Wiley & Sons Publishing, sued him for copyright infringement, and they were awarded $600,000 in damages. Now, it's worth mentioning that retailers like Target or eBay and Amazon, they make an estimated $63 billion a year selling items that are purchased abroad and then resold in the United States. The same thing that Kurtsang was doing. It's known as the gray market. Well, Kurtsang countered and appealed the ruling.
We've had our share of difficulties before. We've actually fixed those. We've been thrown some curveballs. We've dealt with those. Now we're dealing with some other issue well beyond our control. And I got to tell you, I'm to the point right now where I am absolutely beyond frustrated, and I really believe that's probably the reason, or that's the intent, I should say. That's the motivation. But I'm not going to dwell on that. Folks, if you can hear us fine right now.
Yeah, sound is good now.
Okay.
And nothing changed. We didn't turn anything off or on.
We didn't pet feed the gophers that are turning the wheels here, or lie to take their food away.
I'm going to be posting pictures of our setup so you guys can see all the tools and equipment we use. And it's amazing how that
it is a delicate ecosystem. Okay, that we found out, but we're not going to dwell on this. Look, we've got a lot of important news. I talked to Steve Quayle today, ladies and gentlemen. I talked to Steve.
Okay, there's people saying there's problems with the site.
Yes. Somebody. Okay, now this is raw information, so take it as raw information. Steve Quayle did not put up any survey on his website. He did not ask for any visitor participation. Something happened on his website. He's addressing it. He's fixing it. He's taking care of it. He's fine. Everything is fine. But look, when you start putting all of these together, we don't have, $1 million or $500,000 budget. That's fine. We don't need a $500,000 budget. For example, like InfoWars, God bless them, and I hope, and I really, it's fantastic because they are, Alex Jones is moving mountains in terms of getting people informed. We're a very simple operation. But when you've got simple operations like ours and Steve, really, it's a simple operation, a website, and others in a similar position that are all experiencing problems at the same time. And then you've got people like Wade Hicks, who's pulled off an aircraft, the military aircraft, no less. And then, folks, by the way, after we aired that report, or after we published that report and talked about that last night, guess what? I got about 4 or 5 emails today. All right, 6 to be exact, with 1 pending I've got to verify. So we'll give that person the benefit of the doubt. 7 people over the last 60 days that have experienced very similar problems to Mr. Hicks with respect to, hey, you're on the no-fly list.
Yeah, and also I want to say, in regards to sound problems and things going on with BTR, another person notified me on Sunday that there was another Christian show on BTR that they could not broadcast their show because of problems. They were cut off. And this is a reoccurring theme, and it seems to be with a certain group of shows.
And I'm glad you brought that up.
Not the alien...
New Age, atheist. The atheist will always be number 1. The New Age will be number 2 or number 1. They switch off. We've got numbers that would put them in the sand. Would just bury these programs.
Right, and not that the numbers are important, but it does show the extent of the growth of the show, the listening audience,
But it also shows the desperation or the agenda of the, look, get the New Age stuff out there, get the anti-Christian stuff out there, push the atheist stuff out there.
Yeah, and if you say the name Jesus, you are in trouble.
Yes, sanction the heck out of these people.
That was probably just, they probably pushed the button and edited that.
Now watch, okay. Yeah, they've got these voice-activated things. All right, but anyway, Steve is fine. He's addressing the problems with his website. It's going to be back up, or if it's up now, it should be up, or if not, it'll be up shortly. Everything's fine there. There are interesting, and by the way, Steve asked me to tell you this as well. We talked about the situation in Louisiana. If you go back, ladies and gentlemen, and look at the news reports out of Louisiana, and I'm not going to go with suspicions or with things I cannot prove or far out conspiracies, but I will say this. If you look at the news reports, what they're doing is taking older news reports from a year ago, putting a new date on them, or presenting them as present. I shouldn't say a year ago, maybe several months ago, and putting them on as current news stories. Some people will fall for those if they don't check the authenticity of the reports. This, again, right out of the Communist Manifesto, the handbook, how to do things. This is assailing the credibility of everyday, normal, good, hardworking people trying to get the truth out there. We're under attack in this fashion. And again, I'm not going to go through this whole litany of things, but when at the end of the day, when you sit back and analyze things, you have to come to the conclusion there's something not right. And that's where I'm going to leave that. So, but again, it's New Age atheist before Christianity, and isn't it something that this started at the end of the Bush administration, the beginning of the Obama administration, and it's by no accident that it did. And we're getting the Muslim Brotherhood rammed down our throat. We're getting this anti-Semitic speech. We're getting this. The criminalization of any criticism of Islam or any central New Age type religion, that's going to be coming into play. Trust me on this, that is going to take place. We are going to see the criminalization happen. Now, and that's going to further erode our First Amendment rights, and with that, our Second Amendment rights are going to go. It's going to be just a mess. Now, with that, let's go to the phones. We're going to take the phone calls in the order in which they were received. We're going to cross our fingers here and go to 813 area code. 813, you're on with Doug and Joe HAGMANN.
Hi, Doug and Joe. I've been listening to you guys a while. That's the time I called in. I'm really enjoying it. I listen to Steve Frail and all the Watchmen and all them, and I kind of found nice to them. I wanted to go, you guys were on a subject of whether they look Romney or Obama, and where the Christians stand. And what I'm seeing out there, I don't know if you guys expressed this already, but we're seeing a division like mainstream Christianity is like saying, okay, vote for Romney because he's the lesser of two evils, and then what is it? He stands for marriage, he stands for the moral things, and if you really look at his background, he does it. And then you come to the conclusion, well, how can we vote for the lesser of two evils? And then, okay, well, now he stands for Israel. Well, that was okay until Obama just switched, and it looks like Obama's going to, fight Libya or something like that. I don't know. You see what I'm saying? And you're kind of like, and so this other guy, now he come out with this Jesus, and there's like almost 1 million people signing up to say they're going to do a write-in ballot and put it Jesus. Okay. And of course, he's getting a laugh on that. So I just wanted to get your input on that subject.
You mean like to write in people? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, what do you think about the vote for Jesus thing, I guess?
Oh. Well, what practical purpose would that serve in the end? Okay, look, I know what you're trying to do, and I applaud it, and I understand it, but would it serve any real practical purpose in the end?
Yeah, and I'm not trying to tell you where I stand in it. Basically, I'm just saying these are the questions that are coming up, and then the arguments of both sides, and that's exactly what most people say, well, what good will do. And now that people respond back to that, saying, well, God shouldn't test us right now.
Right.
He's testing us to see if we're willing to compromise. And so I'm wondering, hey, that's something to think about, but I'm not trying to sway anybody's opinion on this. I believe you should go vote conscious, vote what God said you would do. I mean, that's my advice. So, but I was just kind of wanting to bring up the little debate on this issue and see what is it something we can talk about?
Well, sure. I think we're in favor of a solution. Period. You know what I mean? Now, but here's the thing. I believe it's too late in the day. I mean, here we are, 2.5, 3 weeks from the election, and we're scrambling right now, trying to find a way to fix something that was decades in the making.
Yeah, and
through by playing by the rules, by the way, through playing by the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And that said, I'm just wondering if, in fact, if there is a solution by playing by the rules. Now, did that help you? Of course, it didn't help.
I really don't. By playing the rules, like you said, I don't really see a solution. But we serve an awesome God, and God can really work in mysterious ways. So who knows how it may turn out? Maybe this buys us more. Say, for instance, if Romney was, which I personally don't see it, but if he wins, maybe that buys us more time. Then from that, it doesn't. Who knows? It's like there's always kind of little things to consider too. But that's all I wanted. You're tired of it. Hello? Uh-oh. Did I get that up on?
You better wake up fast and listen to this, America. The Obama campaign has launched attack squads disguised as truth teams dedicated to intimidating and silencing all political dissent carried over the internet that criticizes the Marxist Obama. Truth squads specifically focused on covering up Obama's endless trail of lies, corruption, and subversion, and using the Gestapo power of our own government to police and censor the internet and shut down websites that dare to carry the real truth about Obama's Marxist coup. Remember the names of these Gestapo-style agencies at work right there in your neighborhood. KeepingHisWord.com, KeepingGOPHonest.com, and AttackWatch.com. KGB, SS, and Gestapo-style police-state gangster organizations at work to silence the important voices of patriot dissent, some of which have already been shut down by Obama's orders. Adolf Hitler would have been proud. We're the 21st century Tea Party patriots.
All right, Mrs. Obama, you know what, in your words, tell us what you think the State of the Union is in right now.
I mean, we're seeing right now that we're in the midst of a huge recovery, right, because of what this president has done. Pulled this economy from the brink of collapse where we were losing 800,000 jobs a month. Now we're gaining.
If you are stumped, you don't know what kind of gift to give to a friend or a loved one, I'm telling you, you must go to physicists.com. That's the numeral 4, PHYSICS.com. This is your one-stop shopping palace. That's the only way I can put it. I could spend easily an hour on this website. Innovative, fun, educational. There are games, books, weather instruments, unique time-telling devices, jewelry, optical devices, laboratory equipment. Let me give you an example. We all know we can tell time. Sundial, you've seen it advertised. Did you know that you could tell time by the stars? At 4physics.com, you can buy a horologium nocturnum. This was a navigational device used in the 15th century by navigators at night to tell time by the stars. It's beautifully crafted in the shape of a pendant made of bronze and pewter or gold and silver. Absolutely a stunning gift. I would be proud to give it to anyone. You must go to 4physics.com. Even if you're not stumped, that's 4physics. That's the numeral 4, PHSICS.com. It's shopping palace. Any problems that you have, I don't know what to get Grandpa, I don't know what to get my loved one, that's unique. You will find it at 4physics.com. Please take my word for it. Give yourself a lot of time because you're not going to want to leave. 4physics.com.
It has doubled. Housing prices are rising. Foreclosure rates are lowering. But in the face of that, you still have people trying to convince us that things aren't better. And that just doesn't make sense. Now, Barack, of all people, knows that we still have a long way to go to completely rebuild the economy, but we're headed in the right direction. And when you see all of that truth, it's hard to understand. Why are people blocking this?
Better or worse?
It's gone.
How about now?
Still gone. I hear nothing in my headphones. I hear nothing. I still hear nothing. Okay, now I hear. I hear now. Hold on. Troy can hear me. We can hear you in the chat room. Now I hear you. They can hear us, so this. All right, the music is gone, ladies and gentlemen. We are back. Hopefully, audio is up. I don't think we're not going to be taking any more phone calls tonight because that seems to be the origin or where this problem started. And for whatever reason, they continued even after the calls and knocked us off the show twice. Usually, when we get knocked off, we'll get a notice from Skype or a notice from BTR saying you're off the air. or from Skype saying, your microphone's muted or your speakers aren't working. No notices from either one. So we don't know.
We actually have to fix this live, so go ahead and keep talking.
And if you heard my father in the background, he said we're going to fix this while we're live, and you guys can tell us, if it sounds worse or better. We have new studio mics. As we said at the beginning of the show, we're going to get rid of these headsets and go to these different mics.
If I can just interrupt here, ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you this. You're all part of this Family Fix-It Hour, okay? Family Fix-It Hour. Let me tell you something, folks. My stress level, Okay, so if you can bear with us, hang with us. We are actually live on BTR. We're live, and if this sounds like amateur hour at the hen house, it is. It is, apparently. And that's what, so, that said.
The chat room asks that you keep cursing to a minimum.
Okay.
No, had to get that in there. Somebody did mention it. No, this is stressful in the sense that we're trying to bring you a quality, professional radio show. Not that we are a professional radio host, but we should be able to have the simple, I guess not so simple, audio that keeps being interfered with, cut off, whatever is happening. But through this trial and error process, we are learning things, which is helping us, know what we're doing. Also, for those of you who don't watch the video, we have it off right now.
Does that increase this quality any better?
I'm not sure. Folks in the chat room, do you know if would you say the quality now is the same, worse, or better than when we started the show?
Okay.
Worse, same, better?
we got the gamut.
Lower, they hear us, over-modulating.
Okay, that's a good thing.
All right, turn the gain down.
Okay, thank you.
We have gain here. And on the mixer, we actually have 3 pieces of equipment that not including the computer that runs the sound in and out of our computer. I just went deaf in my headphones there. Okay. And Dad, don't forget that second box is only the sound incoming to our.
Incoming, right?
That is,
So we did have some issues with the incoming.
Okay.
So I was just trying to kind of take it.
Okay. No white noise now. Great. Thanks, guys, for hanging in there. Some of the headlines I did want to get to tonight, and we will get to as we get through these audio problems. U.S. intelligence, China, to conduct tests more powerful. What they want to do is shoot down satellites. Here we go. China to shoot at high frontier. U.S. intelligence. China to conduct a test of more powerful anti-satellite weapon capable of hitting GPS spy satellites, but after U.S. election. And this is pretty interesting, at least the beginning of this. It says China's military is set to conduct a test of new and more capable anti-satellite missile that United States intelligence agencies say can knock out strategic satellites in high Earth orbit, according to U.S. officials. However, a recent intelligence assessment said the test of the Dongning-2 direct ascent anti-satellite weapon is being deployed in an apparent effort to avoid upsetting President Barack Obama's re-election bid, said the official who spoke on the condition of anonymity. Well, isn't that nice? They don't want to shoot our satellites out of the sky during an election year for President Barack Obama. Also, today, I came across this article. I'm going to post it in chat. It is important that you read this or understand it. George Soros, Rothschilds, Africom, and Libya's gold. I'm sorry. Yeah. Libera's gold. I'm going to post this in here. This is a report gathered by this paper. This is from stat risk. It says the reports gathered by this paper revealed that Liberian President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf's interest in hosting a base for the U.S. African Command, AFRICOM, appears to have had more to do with protecting the George Soros and Rothschild mining operations in West Africa than to champion stability and human rights. George Soros is a Hungarian-American business investor, philosopher, and philanthropist. I guess philanthropist means donating money to causes both good and evil. The 82-year-old is the chairman of the Soros Fund Management. He is also the chairman of the Open Society Institute. He is the New York hedge fund manager and one of the MOS. Since the mid-1980s in particular, he has used his immense influence to help reconfigure the political landscape of several countries around the world, in some cases playing a very key role in toppling regimes that had held the reins of government for years, even decades. And the way, I mean, you hear that? Soros has used his immense wealth and to influence and reconfigure nations, several countries, they say. This man, apparently, as the past shows, has plundered nations' economies and values of their dollars over the last 10, 20 years. And the article continues. It says, the U.S., a stronger case can be made for the claim that Soros today affects American politics and culture and more profoundly than any other living person. The report, which was published online nearly a year ago, indicates that for the sole purpose of protecting the George Soroses and Rothschild mining operations, the President Johnson / Sirleaf and her friend Liam Gooby received 2 Nobel gold medals to help the Rothschild Soros team control all the gold metal, adding a little gold for all the gold. The report divulges that, as with so many international constructs that started out with good intentions, the Norwegian Nobel Committee, like the International Olympic Committee, has become corrupt global corporations. And adding, it is now clear that the decision by the Nobel Committee to award the Nobel Peace Prize to 2 Liberian women, along with a female Yemeni human rights campaigner, was to engage in a bit of influence peddling in mineral resource-rich West Africa, while also attempting to recognize the Arab Spring democracy movement. And we're going to get more on that as we continue. Something I mentioned yesterday that I wanted to get back into today. We never talked about it, just read the headline. Switzerland prepares army for Eurozone fallout. And this article kind of shocked me. It says, with austerity protests across Europe resulting in civil unrest on the streets of Athens and Madrid, the European country famed for its neutrality is taking unusual precautions. Switzerland launched the military exercise Stabilo Do in September to respond to the current instability in Europe and to test the speed at which its army can be dispatched. This country, not a member of the Union or among the 17 countries that share the euro, Switzerland is a peaceful country. The Swiss Defense Ministry told CNBC that it does not rule out having to deploy troops in the coming years. It's not excluded that the consequences of the financial crisis in Switzerland can lead to protests and violence. The army must be ready when the police, in such cases, request for subsidiary help. Some 2,000 troops were part of the drill exercise in 8 different towns across the country. Infantry soldiers were used, as well as the Air Force and Special Forces personnel, in the assignment that took years to organize. That was quoted by, I don't know, I can't find his name anymore. Either way, this shows the preparations the nations around Europe are taking for this possible fall of the European Union monetary system, the economy, the euro. It is going through problems, and I heard Rick Wilds comment on this, and he talked about the euro splitting into two, and that had to do with, I think, the leader of the Philippines, and him making a deal to use dollars and the euro for currencies in his country, but he was skeptical of the dollar because he does not think it will continue to hold its world reserve currency. And when Mr. Wild said that, and I heard that, and he was talking about what the president from the Philippines said, I think it was the Philippines, that spoke very loud to me. You have the president of whatever country this was talking about the dollar not being, he was worried that the dollar would not be the world reserve currency for much longer. And that is what we've been talking about. When that happens, expect things to explode. Hyperinflation is something none of us have ever seen. I hope maybe a few of us, if you've been, lived around the world in different areas in the last 50 years, there are a few examples of that. But we don't want to see that. And unfortunately, we are going to see that. We already have the government talking about quantitative easing 4, QE4. It is just unimaginable to think what will happen to this nation when hyperinflation kicks in. Because today, I saw this, food stamps hit a new record high. And this is something we've been following for a while. It went up to over 46 million people, 46,681,833. And to give you an idea, Troy, if you have that picture of the graph I sent you, if you're watching at Homeland Security US, the number 1.tk, if Troy can get the graph up, if not, it's in this article on the Drudge Report. Food stamps at an all-time high, and record high enrollment also. Food stamp enrollment has hit a new record high of 46,681,833. People are now enrolled in the social welfare program according to the United States Department of Agriculture, the federal department that runs the program. The chart, which I will post in the chat room here, the chart shows the gains from January until July of this year, where January 2011 was 44.19 to January 2012 was 46.45, a gain of over 2,300,000. Now it's up to 46.68. As this chart shows, when President Obama took office, enrolled in the food stamp program was 31.98 million. Now, not even 4 years later, it's a whopping 46.48 million. In 2002, the chart states the food stamps were 19.1 million Americans who received them. In the fact, the newly released data represents enrollment in July, the last month for which the data is available. Assuming the program remained on its projected path, the number of those enrolled in food stamps now is likely to be larger by several hundreds of thousands, meaning it would probably be over 47 million people enrolled in food stamps. And it goes on. The USDA has engaged in an aggressive outreach and promotional campaign to boost food stamp enrollment. Among these efforts are an ongoing partnership with the Mexican government to advance food stamps, also and to Mexican nationals, migrant workers, and non-citizen immigrants. And this is just crazy. I mean, they are buying commercials, and they are advertising and telling you to get on food stamps. Earlier in the year, in the summer, we read you an article where they quoted quoted saying that if you are not enrolled in a food stamps program, you are hurting your economy, your local economy. And they're justifying this, giving millions of people who don't need it, cash assistance, medical, and food stamps. Now, there are a lot of people that do need these benefits. And what blows my mind is how much the difference is I see between people receiving these benefits who don't need it versus people who need it and don't receive it. The people who need it and don't receive it, it seems to be there are more of those, or just as many of those as there are people who don't need it but have it. If there was real morality, honesty, and integrity in this country, those people would not be scamming the system. But unfortunately, I don't know if you guys know of a rapper. His name was Old Dirty Bastard. He has since passed away. He was on MTV back in the 1990s, I think, and I just remember this from being a kid. He rolled up to the, with the welfare office in New York City in his limousine as he was a, 100,000-aire, maybe a millionaire, to go pick up his food stamps. And that's an example of somebody who does not need, assistance from the government. But even bigger problem is the dependency factor that is plaguing this nation. We are no longer self-sufficient. Excuse me. I had to get a sip there. We are no longer a self-sufficient nation, and that is so dangerous. When we see almost 50 million people on food stamps, not only that, the government continues to promote, advertise, basically, give away to anybody who's will sign up, illegal immigrants, it doesn't matter, our money. This goes back to what we read in that report from Iron Mountain, where it stated, create as many programs of waste, and they talked about this waste being, absolutely egregious. It would seem people would speak out about it, go crazy, get their government in order over this kind of waste of their taxpayer dollars. But no, we see nothing. No protests. We see no, real change, positive change. People standing up for the nation. People standing up for the Ten Commandments. People, more importantly, standing up for the laws of our Lord and Savior. Instead, we see the opposite. And this is what we talked about. When you don't speak out against the evil, you are just as guilty of letting it grow. And I can only see this leading to disaster because as hyperinflation increases, the Weimar Republic being a good example of hyperinflation, wheelbarrows of money. I watched a documentary on this 2 days ago. Wheelbarrows of money couldn't get you, enough food for enough for a loaf of bread, a block of cheese, and milk. I mean, they were burning the money to keep warm because it was worthless. And the people who were hurt the worst were the people who were in the middle class and were rich, who had their money tied up in paper money, also in savings. I'm not telling you to go out and buy a bunch of precious metals. You can, that is one way against hedging against inflation. Also, there are many other ways. Food, any kind of hygienic material. It's endless. The things that people will need when this society breaks down, when the supply and demand, when the chain is broken and the stores have no means of restocking their shelves, people will be insane. We will see 46 million people who are receiving food stamps. How many of those are using those food stamps and they have a whole family dependent on that? So you got 1/6 of the population receiving food stamps, roughly, and probably, I'd say 1/4 of the nation dependent on those. So what's going to happen when the dollar is devalued? It is going to be a nightmare, something we will never want to see, yet we are going 200 miles an hour down a cliff, heading straight for it. And I just wanted to, reiterate, growing your own food, doing things to reach out and teach other people, help other people. I know it's hard with dealing with other people, especially those who are unwilling to open their mind to this happening, because they have something called, I'll call it the American bias. It can't happen here. Too big to fail. They think the nation of America is too big to fail. Well, I got news for you. It can fail, and it will fail, as long as we continue on this current course of economics, the economic policies implemented by the administration and, more importantly, the Federal Reserve, who implements them, but who are planned by the international banking cabal, that America is just one country, we'll say out of 10, that they are dangling, like puppeteers with their hands. I mean, we just went through the article with George Soros, and they said his money influence has changed countries, imploded multiple countries, and sent them in this direction. So we have about, 50 to 100 George Soroses in this country, at least, not to mention the wealthiest from across the world, who, if they wanted to, could put their wealth and assets together and bring down this nation at any time they deem. And why would they do something so crazy? Well, they want to rid this country of the useless eaters. And that's what they refer to us as, useless eaters. And it is just very, very sad to see people that don't care to listen. They don't want to listen. They don't want to know. This is why we see these manuals. And I'm going to pull one of these up here. These Department of Homeland Security lexicons, or I don't know if you guys can do a search on the internet. Look up the SLATT, S-L-A-T-T, terrorism training. There is a short zip drive file you can download, and it'll give you 9 PDFs of from terrorism indicators to domestic terrorism. And I'm going to read some of these, because it's pretty crazy what they're putting in these lexicons. And we've been over these multiple times. This right here, what I'm reading from now, is called Terrorism Indicators PDF. I'm sure if you did a search, you could find that online. And this is done by the BJA SLATT program, Terrorism Indicator Topics. They talk about pre-incident indicators and warning signs, and they break it down into 3 categories: international, domestic, non-criminal, and criminal. So they say, where are we vulnerable? There's 5 primary places this country is vulnerable: cosmetic or public message, non-military government, military, people, cyber terrorism, and information warfare. Okay, continuing here, that last part was information warfare. You heard that right. Apparently, as we've read before from these lexicons, the alternative media is listed as a sign of domestic terrorism. So, also, in here, there are things that are very odd and would tie into Mr. Wade Hicks's story as to why he would be considered dangerous or a terrorist or put on a no-fly list when we read what their terrorism law enforcement, all the police departments in the country use these as how they make decisions on what they deem to be terrorist activities or not, or domestic extremism pre-evaluation. They say the warning signs will include dress, speech, writing, actions, or markings. Basically, just anything. And they go on. Loitering around sensitive areas. Repeated use of the word God. You hear that? Repeated use of God, not coupled with profanity. I mean, that to me, speaks volumes. This is under terrorism training, PDF, page 19, general observations. It says, repeated use of the word God not coupled with profanity. Also, it goes on to state if you take pictures, if you have maps, photos, drawings, if you are carrying video cameras or just observing equipment with binoculars, you could be a possible terrorist. Also, pre-incident indicators are surveillance. Individuals observed parking, standing, or loitering in the same area over multiple days. A pattern or series of false alarms requiring law enforcement and or emergency response. And it goes on to say thefts of military and law enforcement ID. But that first one there, individuals observed parking, standing, or loitering in the same areas over multiple days. You know, I park in my driveway every day. Doesn't mean I'm a terrorist. Also, I mean, they get into a whole, I'm not going to go through this whole thing. What I was really looking for is the talk about Christians, Christian identity, how they label this, or what we are, a church under the Lord Jesus Christ, how they look at us as law enforcement officers, whether it's DHS, ICE, Department of Justice, your local police sheriff, or constable, or your actual police department. They continue on saying bumper stickers are a sign of potential terrorist activity. If you have documentation, documents with, if you are carrying this terrorism training document in your car and pulled over, that is an indicator that you are a potential terrorist. Also, the Christian identity is the one that bothers me a lot. It says if you have a Christian identity, you know, it's extreme and you are a terrorist. All right, I'm going to move on from this terrorism training manual, but I ask and urge everybody to search for the SLAT terrorism training. It's a short zip drive download. It has 8 or 9 PDFs in there. And the two most important ones I saw were, well, actually, they're all important. So when I get the links to those, I can try to post those in the chat. But check those out. We've all seen the DHS lexicon from years ago where they talk about all sorts of things. But why are they labeling the people as terrorists while they are funding Al-Qaeda in all these countries and the Muslim Brotherhood all over the Middle East? This report here from Russia Today, arms for Syrian rebels go mostly to jihadists, says this report. Most of the arms funneled to Syrian rebels reportedly end up in the hands of hardline Islamic extremists, including those affiliated with Al-Qaeda. There are no way of vetting rebel groups to bolster only those with more secular views. The Syrian army opposition is supplied with small arms from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, while there are foreign allies like the U.S. Providing logistical help for the transactions. However, according to classified U.S. assessments of the conflict, most of the weapons go to jihadists rather than secular-minded groups, which the West wants to take power in the country, reports the New York Times. The opposition groups that are receiving the most of the lethal aid are exactly the ones we don't want to have in their hands. An American official familiar with the situation of those findings told the newspaper. The report suggests that the more plentiful shipments orchestrated by Qatar are particularly likely to go to hardline Islamists. And folks, I mean, really, this report, says it, spells it out, but we've been talking about this. Many people have been talking about this for a long time now. Our government is funding Al-Qaeda in several nations with our money, and we as American citizens, not affiliated with Al-Qaeda, affiliated with God instead, are the ones the police go after and call terrorists. Now, some would say the administration, by signing the NDAA and allowing all this to happen, the Department of Justice, they're committing treason, should be arrested. That's what I say. And some people say, no, this is good. This is exactly what we should be doing, is bringing democracy to these countries. But what's really being brought to these countries is Sharia law. Anyway, folks, thanks for hanging in there with us. We're up against the final break of the segment. We are going to play some commercials from our sponsors, and we might throw in a couple of news reports, short 1 to 2 minute news reports we have loaded up here while we were trying to get together for the last hour. We want to thank each and every one of you for being so patient and hanging in there with all of our audio problems. We can't thank you enough, and we can't tell you we love you enough. And, we do love you, and we thank you. And we'll be right back after this, folks. Hang in there for the third hour, hopefully with sound, no intrusions, and both my father and I. We'll be right back.
Survival of the fittest. In any and all situations, survival is your number one priority. That requires being tough and thinking smart. And the folks at Freeze Dry Guy are going to help you do just that. They have a long-range patrol ration on.
Is granted chains have been broken. You chase us into the dark, and Lord, we're grateful. Oh, we're grateful.
It would appear you're calling back into a live show. We are reconnecting you now.
Lord, you're faithful. You are faithful. And nothing that we've ever done was too much for you to handle on the cross. We're grateful for your love. Chase us into the dark, and Lord, we're grateful. Oh, we're grateful. You captured our hearts with your love. Oh, Lord, you're faithful. You are faithful. And nothing that we've ever done was too much for you to handle on the cross. We're grateful for your love. Oh, we are grateful. We're grateful for your love. Oh, we are grateful. We're grateful for your love.
Nothing can tear us from the grip of His mighty love. We've only glimpsed His vast affection, heard whispers of His heart and passion. It's pouring out. His love is deep, His love is wide, and it covers us. His love is fierce, His love is strong, it is furious. His love is sweet, His love is wide. is wide and it covers us. Your love is fierce, your love is strong, it is furious. Your love is sweet, your love is wild, and it's waking hearts to life. Your love is deep, your love is wide, and it covers us. Your love is fierce, your love is strong, it is furious. Your love is sweet, your love is wild, and you're waking hearts to life. Your love is deep, your love is wide, and it covers us. Your love is fierce, your love is strong, it is furious. Your love is sweet, your love is wild, and it's waking hearts to life. Oh, your sweet, amazing love, waking hearts to life, waking hearts to life.
You're listening to
Hold on to your seat. The HAGMANN and HAGMANN flight is now taking off. Doug and Joe HAGMANN have cleared the runway of TSA agents, jihadists, political crackpots, and global elitists. Now get ready for some real news. Here they are, Doug and Joe HAGMANN.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 3, the HAGMANN and HAGMANN report. This frantic Tuesday.
This is a true. Now it's a true HAGMANN and HAGMANN report now. Right?
Yeah, one thing she forgot to mention in there is political. What'd she say? Political crackpots, jihadists, and we also need to mention sound critters.
No,
crawling through the machines because
we're fine now. I believe, folks, you can hear us. I take it. One thing that I want to thank Kate for sending an article in. We had talked earlier about this incident in Louisiana. There's something really funny going on there because number one, Kate had sent some information. Let me just verify. If you can bring that up, Joe, make sure. Let me just verify something here before I go on. If you can just scroll down a tad there. That's fine. You can leave it there. Okay. Here's the deal with this. Just go all the way down to the end.
And wow, thank you for putting this together.
Or go up a little bit. I just want to make sure that I think it was Kate that sent this in from Idaho.
Yeah.
Here's the deal with this. And I was on the phone again with Steve, and we were talking about this. Fox News and CNN had ran with some headlines.
That's up here
from 2006. Okay, y'all heard about the alleged explosions, a series of explosions that took place in Louisiana? Well, okay, there are 2 different articles, and maybe even 3.
Yeah.
2000, where you compose the article for Fox News that appeared on Fox News. It's not true.
Yeah, there was also an article on Shreveport, a local Shreveport website that was reporting this, and I have the link, and last time I checked, that was shut down.
Right, and see what they do is rather than admit the mistakes, they just scrub the, make it a 404 error page. Well, okay.
Here, let's see if it comes up now. Shreveport Times. Here it is.
Okay, but it's under a different. Well, it's okay. It looks like it's been revised.
Yeah. On Blacklisted News, they had, before it's news, they had multiple stories of this.
Right. Here's what we think did happen based on our investigation. There was one large explosion that took place in Louisiana. One big explosion. And preceding that, there was an alleged sighting of, some want to say meteorites. It could very well be. But according to the people we've spoken with, although we are in this meteor era, time period, whatever, it certainly does not appear to have been a meteor. Now, something did happen. One explosion, one big explosion, a huge explosion. Not 10, not 11, not a whole bunch of little ones, one big one. All right. The questions that we have, okay, now keep that in mind, about 11:40 last night, roughly, in local time, and that might be off by a little bit, but one big explosion in Louisiana. Now, some say, well, it's to take the attention away from the sinkhole there. Okay, look, there could be multiple uses for something like this. There was, based on everything we've been able to compile, whatever exploded in the ground in Louisiana, no one wants anyone to see. When I say no one, I'm talking about our government, because they had stopped firefighters and first responders from going to check out the situation to render it safe.
Also, I read somewhere, not sure the accuracy of it, of tampering with communications, police communications in Louisiana.
There was, yes, but that's kind of like a third leg and a kind of a side, well, I wouldn't even say leg, it's kind of a tributary to the main river of information here. So what we have here is something being detonated deliberately, it would appear, based on our research.
Yeah.
Who did it? We don't know. What was it? Well, it could have been a weapons or storage or explosive underground storage weapons depot. Why do we say this? Because of the magnitude of the explosion. The explosion happened. The weather satellites caught the explosion on via their satellites. And the subsequent dust and debris cloud over the short period of time that was traveling in the northeast direction. So everything you've read and everything you heard, everything you read on the Fox News website earlier today, the CNN website, and CNN News and Fox News, is factually inaccurate according to the information that we've developed. And when I say we, I'm also talking about Steve Quayle. And Kate in Idaho as well. Thank you. Because you've given us a lot of information on this.
Yeah, Dorothy and Lucy also.
Yeah, absolutely.
And many other people.
And Marianne. And I mean, holy cow. So there's two things. Yes, we're suspecting that these explosions were to take our eyes off of the sinkhole, but more importantly, there was something that was done and probably using some rather unconventional weaponry to detonate this underground weapons or ammunition depot. Because there were eyewitness reports, and we can verify this, and have verified this, where the subsequent explosion had actually caused it to sound like hail on a car. In fact, driving by the debris field, or driving through the debris field shortly after the explosion, there was ash and little pellets like stones, but it sounded like hail on a car. A little bigger than a sand pellet, or a grain of sand, and a little, about the size of rice pellets. And that would indicate a certain type of weapon that would be used to detonate this particular. No, it's not nuclear, so no. But it would certainly indicate some unconventional energy type. And I don't want to get too far out on a limb here, but
well, no, it's all right, because I told you some research I was doing recently on sound and the different about HAARP. I was looking into HAARP. How could HAARP, change things so drastically to create earthquakes, to create these? What are the sounds that were heard in the skies that have kind of came back in different parts of the world? I saw a few reports recently of strange sounds in the skies. What is causing the different phenomena in the earth that we have not seen before? Water turning red.
Exactly.
The deaths of the animals. Is it a frequency thing? Well, I got to tell you something, folks. There is a lot to do with sound and frequency that has to do with us. If you look into the research of how sound can change matter and alter matter, it is
right.
You know, you have to look at what HAARP does in generating and sending out different high, mid to low frequencies that have effects on not only the nature, the earth, but ourselves, our own emotions.
And you know, that takes me back to this G8 summit or whatever that financial summit was in Pittsburgh, because when we talked to one of the people, one of the officers, or one of the officers down there that was higher up than a patrol officer, but it was interfacing or it was a liaison with the Department of Homeland Security and also the other agencies, other federal agencies that were down there, a couple of years ago, there were trailers of non-lethal weapons that were used or that were kept on site or off-site, I should say, but accessible to these officers.
U.S. protesters have seen and been victim of these non-lethal weapons in Pittsburgh, in protests in California, all over the country.
Right.
G20 protests, you know, and we see these things, the sound cannons, if you watch Police State, the movie The Police State, you can hear these things in use.
Right. Yes,
it's sort of,
exactly right.
Equate it to the sounds we hear in the headphones, the scrambling, the sometimes odd noises, and it's frustrating for us, you know, on maybe for a number of reasons. Maybe the sound is intentional to, you know, get you worked up, but
there's a conspiracy theory there.
Yeah,
right?
I'm just saying though, that's the effects that these sounds have on people.
And I understand that. I understand how that could work. Because the sound, just like when you listen to classical music, when you listen to rock and roll or heavy metal music, and there's a difference, of course, between heavy metal and rock and roll, but it does affect your mood, whether it elevates it, energizes it, or calms it. And it's not necessarily the beat and rhythm of the music, but the properties of the sound itself. And as you pointed out, Joe, there have been studies done on the effect of this sound on water, on other water especially. And if you research, ladies and gentlemen, research the experiments done with sound on the water properties. There are interesting YouTube videos out there.
Yeah.
So I suppose that would serve as a visual example of what we're talking about. But nonetheless, back to Louisiana. There was an issue with something exploded down there. Something did happen. The federal agencies are keeping the locals away from the source of the detonation. The reasons are unclear, but one can speculate why they're keeping everyone away. Whatever it is, they don't want the local people to see what it was. So we can speculate perhaps this was a federal munitions depot, perhaps, or something, definitely federal property, because it's being handled by, I would heavily suspect federal property by the method it's being handled. And we've had reports from around Allegheny County in Pennsylvania, for example, but near Butler County, where there is a property there owned by the Department of Homeland Security. The Department of Homeland Security went to the fire chief of that venue and of that area and said, look, no matter, we don't care if you see flames coming from this building. You are not to respond to any fire, any call to this building. This is off limits. Why? Well, because it's classified. You can't see it. Well, what are you doing there? Well, it's none of your business. It's classified. So we've got multiple operations like this going across all across the United States. What are these people doing? What's going on here? We hear reports of troop movements. Can we verify troop movements beyond what is normal? Yes, to a point we can, but what does that mean? We don't know. Does it mean that the troops are preparing for war here? I don't know. I don't know what it means. I don't know what it means. But I can tell you this: it's not normal. Whatever it is.
this torn apart broadcast. We want to thank Christians United Broadcasting Network, Troy,
for support.
Yeah, for your support, your help.
Look, we're losing time. We're losing ground here, and we need to understand the time is short. But see, again, going back to talking about the troop movements here in the United States, we've got multiple reports about the deployment of troops, much like one would be preparing for some type of war, much like they were deployed in Afghanistan and Iraq prior to the hostilities breaking out. This is what we've got. We can verify how much of this is normal. Well, none of that is normal, but some of the deployment is normal, and moving around of assets is normal. So what we see taking place, from the Louisiana situation to the deployment of troops to even what's going on about the elections right now, what we are seeing taking place is a mixture of falsehoods, intentionally deliberate misrepresentations of news headlines for the purposes of distracting and even discrediting. But the discrediting is not as much as the distraction would be. What do you do right before you invade a country? Well, you confuse the enemy. Now, I'm not talking about the United States being invaded. I believe we are already a captured operation. Again, like I said before, we are a captured operation. Now, having said that, are we going to be occupied? Well, I do believe that based on the troop movements, and again, counseling with Mr. Quayle and others, based on the troop deployment of assets here in this country, and you see it hinted around on public forums. For example, you might go to a Republican-oriented conservative forum like Free Republic, and you just go through the headlines. And you look, and there will be occasional references to moving around of DHS assets. Or you go to some of the survival forums. You see reports, hey, look, I saw, these assets moving by rail. Well, upon closer scrutiny and closer investigation, some of these movements are normal. So when you water down the important things with misinformation and disinformation, people have a tendency to stop listening. Because that means, look, how many times are you going to talk about the suspension of elections? How many times are you going to talk about the troop movements? How many times are you going to talk about the economy tanking? And when it does finally happen, people are going to say, well, you had to be right sometime, because my goodness, that's all you've been saying. So, you weren't right in 2000 about the elections. You weren't right in 1990. In the 1990s, or you weren't right in the decade of from 2000 to 2010. Hey, you were bound to be right, at one of these elections that were going to be suspended because of some sort of event, and that's how. So this dilutes all of these false headlines and redirections. Dilute the message. Yeah, it's diluting the message. That's the deliberate operation of our opposition. Our opposition being who? Well, the communists in our government.
The communists in our government.
Yes.
The money interest behind those.
Well, that's correct. That's where ultimately it's the cabal of bankers. Probably 6 banks own the entire world. Alex Jones talks about this with a lot of authority and a lot of statistics and information behind him, and as well he should, because he's done the research. They've done the research, and in fact they've been dead on the money. But you see what happens again. People dismiss Mr. Jones for reasons that are totally irrelevant to the message. All right, so the reason I'm saying all this is because what we've got right now is a whole bunch of puzzle pieces lying on this table right now, a whole bunch, and each puzzle piece represents a headline or a piece of information or something that's about to happen, and you cannot necessarily take each one and look at it like the entire puzzle. It's part of a larger agenda. It's part of the larger puzzle itself. Unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of the picture on the puzzle box.
No.
This is what we're dealing with right now. Is the economy going to tank? Yes, Absolutely. It's a mathematical certainty.
Just
when?
a matter of when.
When? Yeah. Well, we don't know. Before the election. People lock themselves in before the election. People lock themselves in after the election. Frankly, we don't know. But it's a mathematical certainty. I'm going to speak flat out right now. If I had a whole bunch of assets, liquid assets, let's say 401ks, retirement plans, whatever. You know what? I agree with Steve. Looking at things over the last couple of weeks especially, I would liquidate everything in banks, in physical banks, and I would put them in, first and foremost, food and water and shelter. Okay? Pay off the mortgage, or 2 or 3, or however mortgage you got. Pay them off. And use the rest, or if you have a whole bunch of money, do that. That's my opinion. That's what I would do. And then I'd make sure I had enough food, water in my house, and the means to protect it.
Yeah.
Okay, period. That's what I would do, and I would do that right now. And by the way, folks, while we're talking about preparations, look, I was going through a list here today. I'm going to tell you, you can't have things you can't have enough of. Batteries, toilet paper. Okay, you can't have enough of that stuff.
Lighter fluid, matches, or ways to make fire.
Stick matches, and especially
water.
Water purification. Yep. And I'm going to tell you, at the gun show I was at this past weekend. Was it this weekend?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Wow,
it seems so long ago, but it was only a few days ago.
All right. Yeah, I'm totally lost. I don't even. But anyway. One item that I didn't talk about this, but one item that was really selling was a $30 water purifier that fits in the top of a jug. It was pretty cool. In fact, it was a survival company out of Pittsburgh. If you search on the internet, survival company, water purification jug thing, whatever, you'll find it. And I was talking to the person behind the counter, behind the vendor booth there. She said, "Oh man, people look. You can pour in water from a swimming pool or from your gutters, and it would purify 100 gallons of water. So for $30, you don't have to. I mean, you could store water, but if it's questionable water, you purify it. How much space does it take up? Not much. So there you have that. And again, I go back to toilet paper. And one other thing I want to mention as well that people should stock up on, and something's telling me to say this. I don't know. Kind of go down this road is rouge. Like if you're a woman, aside from the whatever you need, for whatever you need, but lipstick, rouge, eyeliner. You know what? Because there's a tendency for people to be dehumanized in a situation that is well beyond.
Yeah. How about
what you can fathom?
How about stocking up on Bibles?
Bibles? Yep.
Not for any type of barter or monetary gain, but for the people who are lost, who have no hope, who don't know Jesus.
Pass them
in
out.
Their time of desperation. A Bible might save their soul.
That's right.
So that would be something that we would definitely want, to make sure we have some extras of.
Right. And earlier today, during the course of everything that was taking place, I did have a chance to talk once again. It seems like an open line of communication with my source at the Department of Homeland Security, and I was asking him. I said, "What's going on with with everything? Are you guys still fixing on?" Or is DHS still fixing on quelling an uprising and revolt? And he was pretty adamant. He said, look, yes. But you know what? It's not contingent necessarily on any single day or event. They're looking at this whole situation as there will be a trigger point. They're not going to lock themselves into a trigger point. It could be the economy. It could be the elections. It could be a combination of both. It could be a nuclear detonation in the city by some rogue terrorist element, hint, hint. Or it could be, a hurricane, an earth calamity combined with all of the above. It's odd because the agenda of the people behind the people making, or the agenda behind, or the agenda of the people making these plans, follow and I'm sorry if I'm going to turn the people off, but they follow the Nazi pattern, and I find it very difficult to comprehend this. But I got to tell you, it's the Nazi style of if you know history, if you study the Nazis during World War II, if you look into that very heavily, and if you follow what happened right after World War II, what we did, who we funded during the war, what happened after the war, there are a lot of answers in that period of history. So if you superimpose that time period, that template onto today, or computer age, we'll say, that agenda, fit it to today, right here, right now. Of course, the economy is a target. The globalists, the bankers, want to collapse the economy. Well, what do they get out of it? Well,
if they know when it's going to happen,
right? A
lot.
Exactly. If they know, and they do know, there's probably 300 people in the entire United States that know. But that 300 people they're members of an elite group. They're the movers, the shakers, the people that actually, are the ones behind the scenes, pulling the levers and pushing the buttons. Those are the people that are about 300 people. I wouldn't say many more than that. And then, of course, you've got a bunch of other. And look, senators and congressmen. Half of those people are clueless. People within the higher levels of government. Many of them are clueless. But you've got the people like the Bernanke's.
Yeah.
And you got people like Geithner. You got people like these people. Do you think? And again, our listeners are so fabulous. There was a video on YouTube, and I will be posting it on HomelandSecurityUS.com about it just so happened, or it just so happens that I can't recall the specific phrase, but it talks about Obama, his time and place in history, leading America as a nation. The relationships between Frank Marshall Davis and by the way, Joel Gilbert, great guy. I'm not sure if I 100% agree with the fact that Frank Marshall Davis is Obama's father. I certainly would not rule it out. How can you prove it, though? How can you prove it? Certainly, it looks like an interesting possibility.
Right, but see, here's the thing that's important with that. We know Obama has a long history with Frank Marshall Davis.
Right.
We know Frank Marshall Davis has a long history with Obama's mother and family.
Exactly. So does it matter if Frank Marshall Davis is actually the paternal father of Obama? Well, no, because the influence is still there. I mean, he could have been raised in a petri, or born in conceived and hatched in a petri dish, frankly. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter. It matters what happens afterwards in terms of who had the greatest influence on Obama, and who pulled the strings and pushed him to, put him in Harvard, or put him in Columbia, and in Harvard as well. So, you've got Frank Marshall Davis, his communist connections. You've got Stanley Ann Dunham and her communist connections, communist leanings. But if you look at Stanley Ann Dunham, she was working again with Geithner's father in microfinance in Indonesia. We all know this.
The Ford Foundation,
right?
And the Ford Foundation,
right.
Mr. Ford himself, or the Ford Foundation, has ties also back to Nazi Germany.
Thank you.
In the time of Hitler.
Exactly. So whereas Joel Gilbert and these other videos go pretty far in exposing this, why not go just the extra step and say, look, not only, for example, like we just said, like we just connected that between the Nazis, sorry, but the Nazis and the current situation. So, or with Obama, and how that kind of ties in. But again, the information we're getting is the fact that the time is short. We don't know when. It's not going to be necessarily, again, the operative word here, it may not be predicated on the elections. They are definitely gearing up, ramping up to create uprisings here in the United States, much like Obama did in Kenya when his cousin Odinga lost.
Odinga.
That's right. When he lost the elections in Kenya.
And I'm sorry for laughing because it was really sad what happened to those people who were a part of the opposition, part of the people who did not want Odinga to be in power.
Or wanted him to be in power after he lost. They burned churches and okay, so imagine that. And one of the architects behind that was Obama. Yes, Obama was one of the architects behind that chaos and uprising and unrest. It is documented, and I'm not saying allegedly or supposedly. I'm saying with definite resolve that yes, it was Obama, even to the extent where the people in Kenya, some of the people in the government, in the new government, the transitional government, after Odinga lost, called up our own State Department and said, "Get your senator the heck out of our country."
Yeah.
Okay. So but is this being reported in the mainstream media? Of course not. So we have to give up on the mainstream media. And I love Orly Tates. I believe that she's doing a good thing, and I'm 100% behind her. But we can wait all day long. It's not going to be covered by the mainstream media, and I highly doubt that this judge would have the fortitude, the integrity, the character, the guts, or even the life insurance, to rule in favor of Orly Tates. That's reality. So where does that leave us at this point? At the end of the day, what do we? Where does this leave us? Well, again, we have to go back to Sunday's program with what Steve said. It's boy, I'll tell you, it's been a really huge roller coaster ride since Sunday with respect to a lot of different things and information and trying to really, get everything together and get facts straight. And then, of course, we had the situation with Wade Hicks take place and trying to get that out and show people that, look, this is happening. Everything is happening right now. Things are starting to happen. There are little things that are starting to happen that are harbingers, and I use that word intentionally, harbingers for things to come. It's important, folks. Look, let's go to Syria real quick. Death race Damascus, and thank you to whoever sent that in. I will give you proper attribution when I go back through my emails, and it's not Benghazi Gate, okay? That's so easy. Benghazi Gate is so easy just to blow it off. Oh, yawn, Watergate, Benghazi Gate, Monica Gate, all this. No, it's worse than that. This is a planned eugenics operation. This is a planned operation by the globalists to wipe out most of civilization in the northern hemisphere. And folks, please listen to what I'm saying. The northern hemisphere. Why do you think George Bush has got a spread in Paraguay?
Yeah, a huge place. Why are the elite of the world building bunkers across, even on the South Pole or on Antarctica? I saw an article today where they were increasing the security of something on the South Pole of the ships that come in and out or near there. They were setting up some kind of security perimeter. Why? What is in the South Pole that is needs a necessity to be protected like that?
Now, and that brings of history.
Yeah, that brings us into a lot.
World War II. The Nazis, World War II, and you're not going to see this on the History Channel or the Military Channel. You're not going to see this. Research what the Nazi regime, what the Third Reich did, what they were doing at the South Pole. Now you're going to have to sift through a lot of conjecture. Get rid of the conjecture. Go with the documentation. That's what you've got to go with the documentation. What can be verified, and then once you've got the validated information as the base from which you can build upon, then research outward from there. Well, one would suspect that there is a base, a military base at the South Pole that is still functional, operable, and being used by the people who want to advance the agenda that was set in place well over half a century ago. That whole mindset of this continuation of a Third Reich and what was the Third Reich all about? What was that all about when it really comes down to it? What was that all about? It was about the purification. It was a purification process. It was mass genocide. That's what it was all about. And unfortunately, many American leaders that we look up to have their bloody fingerprints on that whole ordeal. Many of the leaders of this country facilitated this. They played both ends of this horrific game.
Yeah.
It's
they do.
Incredible.
I mean, we see the funding. We talked about this, the Russia Today article from yesterday about most of the arms ending up in extreme Islamist jihadist hands. At the same time, they are, sexually harassing anybody who is, a baby to 100 years old who goes through any type of mass transportation security.
Right.
And that security is not private. It is government security. They changed the laws in order to be able to sexually molest you. And I guarantee you, you try to touch anybody for any reason, the way the TSA would touch you, you will go to jail and be served with a violent sexual abuse charge, which is warranted because it is sexual abuse, sexual assault, and yet it still happens every day. Mothers let their children go through it, husbands let their wives go through it, and vice versa. It is sickening. This conditioning, it is accepted by most people. I am just flabbergasted by the results of, or the answers of people who are asked about these new security measures when implemented. The people that say, if you weren't a bad guy, you have nothing to hide, so it shouldn't be a problem to you. This is good for our security. No. If I have to be sexually assaulted to ensure safety on an airplane,
it's not worth it.
No.
It's not only not worth it. We have the responsibility, moral responsibility to protect our mothers, our daughters, our wives, our children.
They tried that with my wife or my mother, or anybody in my family, or even people I didn't know. Those people would be in danger of my emotions. I could not sit there and watch people being sexually assaulted and not do anything about it.
Right, exactly.
So I don't understand how other people can let that happen.
But here's where the perversity, here's where everything gets
I would freak out.
But see, you've got now television programs. We spoke about this the week before about television programming where they've been keeping track over the last 8 years, and now we've reached where primetime cable television shows and network television shows have more gay, lesbian, transgendered individuals, and they celebrate this than any other time in history. This is what's taking place at the TSA. What they're doing is they're providing this outreach for this particular element of society. Now, of course, boy, I could just imagine trying to say that on MSNBC or any other network program, because they would say, "Come on, no, that's not happening." Of course, it's happening, and it's happening to the delight of the very people who relish the perversity of the entire situation. So, if you are, in fact, you can do this because they only check, the TSA, for example, only checks criminal records 10 years back. So if you had a felony conviction for sexual crime 20 years ago and just haven't been caught since, well, guess what? You could be hired by the TSA. And there's this outreach toward the perverse element of our society by the Department of Homeland Security under Janet Napolitano. This started in earnest under Napolitano, where they celebrate this lesbian, gay agenda, the diversity, and they want to hire these people. Well, look what's happening. The same thing with the military. We are crumbling. We are under assault from within. And I speak from the heart on this because we are allowing this to happen. We are saying okay, or otherwise are being preoccupied, or otherwise preoccupied. And that's what happens, because you've got the average person out there, like us. You're working 20 hours a day just to keep food on the table. And I'm sure everyone listening to this program is in similar straits, or relatively similar straits. You're doing your best to provide for your family. Well, that gives you very little time to keep up with what's going on. That's why programs like this, and Alex Jones and Rick Wiles and Steve Quayle, Hawk, and anybody that's trying to get the truth out there. That's why it's so important to really, cut to the chase and just give us the information, doggone it, really quick. And this is what we try to do. But again, time is short. We see things taking place. I do believe that the situation with Wade Hicks, and again, I've looked at this upwards and downwards and sideways and backwards and tried to find a reason, but the only thing I can tell you right now is, and based on other emails I've gotten, I could tell you that they are beginning now in earnest to really strike out, lash out against the people who really want to be the keepers of our human rights, our civil rights, our constitutional rights. And that's what's taking place today. And, no one will talk about this. People will be caught up in the theater of the debates and theater of the elections, which, okay, it's fine, but understand what you're watching. If you go to a professional wrestling show, the match, whatever,
yeah,
understand that it's not real. Right. That it's decided in advance, or manipulated.
Yeah, and a lot of this starts at parent-child involvement, the involvement of a parent in a child's life, and what the parent believes in and what they teach to their children. The practice of Halloween, the practice of different, really, I would say Halloween is the very anti-Jesus holiday. I mean, it is based on evil.
Of course, it's a pagan.
But how many other
thing.
I mean, I understand the kids. It's free candy and it's good for the kids to get out there. But why the crazy costumes? Why the devil costumes? The demons? I mean, that should really tell you something. Do you want your kids running around collecting candy where there's people dressed up like demons and that evil is feeded off of that evil is used in sinister ways, obviously, that we don't even see the effects of. The rituals, the occult, performances, like the Super Bowl performance and the Olympic performance that people point out, all these rituals of occultism that they are coming out in plain view of the public now. They are not hiding things that they hid before. That, to me, is an indicator that they don't care anymore.
But very quick, let's close out strong here, because we mentioned about the professional wrestling and that's all a show. Look, you've got Obama. You know what we're up against there. Look at Romney, really quick. 1994, Romney stated on abortion. Let's take abortion quickly. 1994, Romney stated, "I believe abortion should be safe and legal in this country." That you can find that appeared in Boston.com. Now, 2001, while campaigning in Utah, Romney said, "I'm not pro-choice." Okay. 2002, in Massachusetts, Romney stated, "I will preserve and protect a woman's right to choose." 2004, he suddenly became pro-choice. Right. In 2005, "I am actually committed to to my promise to maintain the status quo with regards to laws to abortion and choice." In other words, going back to that. What about homosexuality? He supported Bill Clinton's "Don't Ask, Don't Tell" policy. It thinks it worked and shouldn't be changed.
Romney care.
Yeah, well, I'm getting to that. But look, he boosted funding for homosexual education, starting in kindergarten. He opposes a ban on homosexual scout masters.
Right.
He forced Catholic Charities, the nation's #1 adoption foster care service, to place children with the same-sex couples, even though he was under no legal obligation to do so.
Yeah, and these debates are like the pro wrestling.
Yes,
like you said.
Yes.
And pro Tractor in the chat room says it. They both say what the voters want to hear, and that's exactly right. But their actions are against the people of this nation. Romney stated publicly he supports the NDAA. He supports the provision that allows the government to illegally detain American citizens without evidence trial lawyer indefinitely.
And, I could probably end right now by quoting Proverbs chapter 12, verse 20. Deceit is in the heart of them that imagine evil, but to the counselors of peace is joy. So think about that.
And in all this madness, what is a man who gains the whole world but loses his soul? I mean, what is? I still don't get the appeal of the earthly.
They believe they're buying the future. They believe that they can live forever.
But I understand it to people who are poor, don't know the Bible, good and evil, but for these people who are, dedicated or sell themselves souls to Lucifer, knowing that he is the devil, knowing that hell is where they will be. I mean, minus the deceptions that they are fed, they know. I mean, they have to know. It would take an unbelievably, it would almost like mind-controlled person not to know. So we look at all this, the rulers who, worship these dark sides, and at the same time they tell you there is, no heaven or hell, or Darwinism they promote, and it's unbelievable, the layers of deception.
And one last thing, back in 2008 we talked about this. There were articles that we wrote and we also read. In fact, when we were on in a different venue, police prepare for civil unrest as IMF warns of economic riots. This back at the end of 2008. The War College, we referenced War College studies that were saying, look, widespread civil violence inside the United States as well as outside the United States would force the defense establishment to reorient priorities to in extreme situations to defend basic domestic order and human security. We talked about this. The War College has a plan for this. And what are we seeing over in Greece, Spain, and the European Union? Of course.
90 seconds.
Folks, I want to thank each and every one of you guys and ladies for putting up with us, for putting through with, sticking with us.
And minus all the sound problems.
I do believe, however, that now we've got it corrected. But okay, go on.
We had, people in chat stayed there; they didn't leave, and I want to thank you guys for your devotion, for your support of this program. I cannot thank you enough. And
60 seconds.
He has, blessed this show, blessed this audience and this platform, and it is through him. This is the only reason why we are doing what we are doing. It is his works, not ours.
That's right. We're just the vessels that do this. And I got to tell you, I got an admission to make. I believe I might have hit a button upon moving some of the equipment that probably caused all of this. But
it's okay.
Look.
We'll try again tomorrow. And we'll be in the studio early.
We got to fix,
Yeah, we'll take care of this. God bless each and every one of you. We will see you tomorrow, same time, same place.
And God bless you, folks. We love you. And
have a good night.
Yeah, please.